And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs. This is a special crossover edition for a Christmas game against the Raiders. And we're going to be talking to Q from Locked On Raiders today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, Q. How is it going in Raiderland today?
It is going. It is going. You could imagine that folks in Raiderland are pretty happy right now with the Raiders getting that 63-21 victory over the Chargers, hated division rival, and, especially coming off that 3-0 loss to the Vikings just a few days ahead of that. So all is good. Obviously, everything's not good in the grand scheme of things. Still want to find ways to win more games, but feeling pretty good about themselves based off that victory at least.
Yep. No, I definitely understand that. I'll let you go ahead and go first this time. What is the biggest storyline that you see for the Raiders going into this game?
I think the biggest storyline is how can they build off of that Thursday night victory, right? I mean, for the longest, the storyline has been Antonio Pierce and what can he do to try to solidify that head coaching job, not just for the rest of the season, but obviously long term. That's been the storyline. But honestly, Chris, I think it's all about what can they do? What can they show in this upcoming game against the Chiefs that says that 63 points that they put up against the Chargers was not just the Chargers rolling over and playing dead and quitting on their coach? Because that's been the storyline, right? Everyone I've talked to has said, yeah, the biggest thing I took away from that is that the Chargers hate Brandon Staley and they didn't want to play for him, so they quit. And I was like, yeah, I get that, because I believe that there's elements to that. But I also think that there's elements to the fact that the Raiders were shut out by the Vikings 4 days ahead of that game, 3-0, coming off their bye week, a very embarrassing loss at home with all the Viking fans in Allegiant Stadium doing the whole skull chant, and they were embarrassed at home. And to find out and to find a way to turn that around and go out 4 days later on a day that everyone hates playing on Thursday nights games, to go and do that and find a way to put up 63 points, dominate offensively and defensively, and really make the Chargers quit, I think it says a little something about the Raiders as well. So, again, I don't want to get too high on it. I don't get too low on the losses either. But I think that the Raiders, for this game, the storyline is going to be, how can we show everyone that it wasn't just the Chargers quitting, it was also the Raiders playing really well in this game. So that's what I think that they're going to go out and try to prove in Arrowhead on Christmas morning, as you very well know.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite the game. You said it, on Christmas Day in Arrowhead. Probably going to be cold. Don't really know what the weather is going to be like. So probably too far out to really have a good idea as to what that's going to look like. But it is going to be a big game for the Chiefs and for the Raiders. At this point, Kansas City is playing for any chance of getting to the number one seed. Obviously, their chances are a lot further down than they were a couple weeks ago, but they still have an opportunity depending on how the games go this next couple of weeks for the Ravens and the Dolphins. But it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. The Raiders wanted to go out there. They wanted to make a statement against the Chargers, and they definitely did that.
Yeah, no, they did. They did. And again, it was something that as I was sitting there in Allegiant Stadium, I was like, what the hell am I watching? Right? I mean, what is going on? It's
Where's
like,
this been?
Right, exactly. They score a touchdown, they cause a fumble. They score a touchdown, they cause a fumble. It's just like, what is going on? You get a fumble, you get a fumble, you get a touchdown. I mean, 8 different dudes scored touchdowns on Thursday, and I don't expect that to happen. There's a reason why that was the franchise record for points. I mean, that's not going to happen very often, but it gets the guys feeling pretty good about themselves. The locker room, to say the least, was pretty happy afterwards. Coach Antonio Pierce was pretty happy as well. For the Chiefs, I mean, obviously they're in first place right now in the AFC West. It's a little tighter than they're used to it being right now. But what do you feel like is the biggest storyline coming into this game on Christmas?
I think there's a couple, but I want to say really quick, I was a little disappointed in the Raiders because they got off to such a large lead in the second half. Starting the second half, I was hoping that they were going to get the NFL record against the Chargers. That would have been pretty awesome in the scoring. I'm not a Raiders fan. Don't want anybody to think that, but it still would have been fun to see going against the Chargers. The one thing I think when I look at this game, there's a lot of storylines coming out of Kansas City. Wide receivers dropping passes, stupid mistakes that they continue to make. But the reality is, and I think what the biggest storyline that people need to realize is, Kansas City is almost exactly where they wanted to be, regardless of everything that has gone on. If they win this game on Sunday, they are the AFC West champs again. They get, they're going to guarantee themselves a home playoff game, whether or not it's the number one seed, 2, 3, whatever, 4. It doesn't matter. They're still going to win the division. That is step one in what they want to do to get back to the Super Bowl. So I think that's the biggest storyline that I'm looking at, because the reality is is that they are exactly where they want to be. They're starting to play a little bit better. Obviously, the Patriots aren't the best, measuring stick as to if they're playing better or not. We'll see
Right.
a little bit more against the Raiders, and that's what I'm really curious about going into this game is how does it change? Can they build on what they did against the Patriots? Because the one thing that they screwed up against the Patriots, and I will say this, if they do what they did to the Patriots, I'm not going to pick them to lose necessarily against the Raiders, but it's going to be a one-score game, and it may come down to the very end of the game if they turn the ball over twice in the Chiefs' territory. When you cannot do that against better teams. The Patriots are bad enough you're able to get away with it. I'm not going to say the Raiders are great, but I will say I think they're good enough to take advantage of that. And after the way they played against the Chargers, you have to be concerned about doing something like that.
Yeah, the Raiders have been pretty opportunistic as far as the defense goes, been able to create turnovers. That was one of the big keys to the whole season for me was like, hey, you got to find a way to create turnovers because they normally don't do that. But, they've created 19 turnovers or 19 takeaways, I should say, so far this season. They're getting to the quarterback better than they have in the past couple of years, and their defense is playing better. So I think that's why it's going to make this game really challenging. Let me ask you this, just on a side note, say the Chiefs win this game and win the division, get into the playoffs and do what they're expected to do. Do you expect them to be able to have enough firepower? I know the defense is playing well, but is the firepower there offensively good enough to get them where they ultimately want to be, which is actually playing where I'm at in Las Vegas at the end of the year?
Is it good enough? When you have Patrick Mahomes, I think that you have a pretty big leeway to be able to get to where you want to go in the Super Bowl. And he has shown he played a great game against the Patriots. And I know people are going to look at his stat line of 2 interceptions and go, well, that's not a great game. Go watch where he had his interceptions. Both of those balls were thrown where they needed to be. One, the guy didn't actually come and attack the ball, which we've talked about multiple times on Locked On Chiefs. As a receiver or tight end, you have to attack the ball when it's coming to you. 2, Kadarius Toney has a ball hit him in the hands and it pops it up and it goes to an interception. Those types of things are going to kill this team if they continue to do them. But the reality also on the other side is Kadarius Toney, regardless of whether or not you actually like what he's been able to do for the Chiefs this year, he has talent that nobody else on the roster has. He has the ability to make plays. It's the question of, can you get it out of him in the times that you're going to need it? That's the big question. And what I will say is that the Chiefs have started to show that they have a legitimate receiver in Rashee Rice, who I do think can carry an offense at times, not necessarily by himself at this point in his career, but carry it enough to where if some other guys can make just, 1 or 2 catches apiece, I think they'll be in a good position.
It's just weird seeing the Chiefs not be the Chiefs that you are used to seeing. And obviously, I don't have to tell you. I'm not breaking any news to you. You're living it. You're covering them on the daily. So it's just I don't want to say it's a strange world that we're living in, but I'll tell you, man, just seeing how the whole NFL has shaken out this year with it really being like the year of the backup quarterback. Some things don't look like they normally do. It's a different year, and that's why we love the NFL. So love when they actually get on the field and play the games because we think we know. Until we don't know what we know when they get on the field. But there you go. Good stuff right there. I like it.
Yeah, and you said it exactly correct. Because if you look back at what Kansas City was looking at in this preseason, they thought that they had 7 guys that were wide receiver that were going to be able to make plays, 7 guys that were going to be able to do different things, and they were going to be able to use all these guys and interchange things and get a lot of different production. And now you're at a point where Rashee Rice is your best wide receiver, which I don't think is a horrible situation, but the other guys that you were hoping were going to be able to step in and complement haven't been able to do that at this point, and that's really held this offense back. The scary thing for other teams is if Kansas City can start to find ways just to get 2 or 3 plays from MVS, 2 or 3 plays from Justin Watson, 2 or 3 plays from maybe a Justin Ross, or if McCole Hardman is a guy that can come back, 2 or 3 plays from Kadarius Toney as an offense and Noah Gray as well. They can be a scary offense, and their defense is still playing very well.
It's gonna be interesting to see what it looks like, man. The playoffs are gonna be very interesting. There's a lot of really good teams that are gonna be battling it out, and we'll see what Kansas City does. But right now, I'm not focused on the playoffs. I'm just focused on Monday night, Monday afternoon, I should say, Christmas at Arrowhead Stadium. That's gonna be something. Week 16 action.
Yeah, I cannot wait. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about the biggest matchups, what could lead to a win for each teams, and we're going to be going into our predictions for this game on Monday. On Christmas, when we get back on Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Raiders podcast crossover.
And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. It's that simple. It's $150 if your team wins. It doesn't get any easier than that, right? So you've been thinking about joining FanDuel? Good. Do it. You should do it, and you should do it right now. There's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. We use it each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And right now, the Chiefs are favored by 10 points over the Silver and Black. So you can go with the spread. You can go with the player props if you want. That's always fun. I love player props. They're exciting. Over-unders, a whole lot more. There's so many different ways to be dialed in on this game and many different games with the NFL, and that's really the way to go. Check out FanDuel for all the NFL action. You got to hit up FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get into the NFL season the right way with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
All right, Q, there's a ton to talk about when we get into these matchups, but I do want to tell everybody really quick, go check out the Locked On Today YouTube channel. It is playing, and it is actually, I think, believe it or not, it is now on Amazon Fire as well, where you can actually go and watch any of our YouTube shows 24 hours a day. So go check that out. Q, what is your biggest matchup heading into this game against the Chiefs?
You know, it's really the interior of the Raiders defensive line, and their rookie Tyree Wilson has been playing on the interior, quite a bit the last few games, and has been playing pretty well. And he's gotten off to a slow start his rookie year. He was supposed to be the guy that was the bookend to Max Crosby, and actually he was supposed to come along slowly, and Chandler Jones was supposed to fill that void across from Max Crosby. Chandler Jones never got on the field in 2023 for the Silver and Black, so Tyree Wilson had a little bit more pressure put on him early, and he really didn't get off to that good of a start. It really got off pretty slow and looked like, man, this guy may be a bust, right? You started hearing the B word. He slid on the inside. Malcolm Kuntz has been on the outside now, and he's been thriving as a pass rusher across from Max Crosby the last couple of games, causing multiple sacks and fumbles, which has been a big deal. Not only just getting to the quarterback, but causing them to fumble, and the Raiders have been able to recover. But a lot of it has to do with pressure that's been hitting the quarterbacks from the interior, which is Tyree Wilson. And again, he hasn't got to the quarterback on all these plays, but he's just that force on the interior. And I know that Patrick Mahomes, one of the things he loves to do the most is step up in the pocket. And he's burned the Raiders so many times by stepping up in the pocket. I think there's going to be a big emphasis in this game on that Raiders defensive line, but more importantly, the interior. Can Tyree Wilson be that guy to really shut the door on that step-up lane for Patrick Mahomes? Because when he steps up, as you very well know, he has so many different options. Throw a ball that he's supposed to throw a ball he's not supposed to throw, because he completes those two. Or step up and take off and run, and he does that really well when he needs to. I know it's not the first option, but it's like a 3-trick pony or something, like different things he can do. And that's dangerous, right? When you let that guy start getting crazy and get loose, he'll do exactly that. So I think that really, man, it's going to come down to the Raiders defensive line. Can they make him uncomfortable in the pocket? And that uncomfortableness, that feeling's got to come from the interior. I think all eyes are going to be on number 9, Tyree Wilson, the 7th overall pick for the Silver and Black in this past April's draft. What do you think about the matchups for you?
I have to ask really quick, do you think that they're going to spy him? Do you think they'll use a spy on him?
I don't know. I don't think they're going to necessarily spy him. I just think that they're going to expect their guy in the interior to be able to close out that step up lane. And Antonio Pierce is like to get 4 edge rushers on the field at the same time, using that NASCAR package, something he's familiar back with when he played with the Giants. So that's something that the Raiders have had a lot of success with as of late as well. Their defense has been playing great. I mean, it really has. Their defense is not the reason why they're sitting there with a 6-8 record. It's been the offensive struggles. So the defense has done its job. Even against Kansas City the first time, it did a really good job until the dam just broke. Then it was like, all right, well, that's a wrap. And Kansas City ran away with it, as you know. The offense has just not been complimentary. But if that defensive line could really step up and really make life a little bit difficult on Patrick Mahomes, it could be a lot closer game than a lot of people expect it to be.
Well, and I hate going with the obvious one, but really the reality of it is that Max Crosby came into the game last time and was coming out of being in the hospital and was playing and played a game that he probably shouldn't have. I'm really kind of surprised that the Raiders allowed him to play. I understand you wanting your best guys out there and trying to win and all that. I get it. But it sounded like, just based on what he said that he went through that week, I would have thought that they would have held him back. I get that he wanted to play, and I understand that, and that's the type of guy he is. But that's going to be a huge matchup in my mind. You're talking about the interior of the defensive line. I want to talk about Max Crosby versus Jawan Taylor. Last time the Raiders played the Chiefs, Jawan Taylor only had one pressure that he gave up, and it was a hurry. And I'm not sure if it was Max Crosby or not. I was looking for that, but he only gave up one hurry in that game, according to PFF. Obviously, they're not great. I think Max Crosby still got home in that game, but they didn't put that on Taylor in that regard. So I am curious to see what he's able to do against Jawan Taylor. This is going to be a big matchup for Kansas City. You're absolutely right. If they can get interior pressure, that's really going to hurt Kansas City because you're right. Mahomes does like to step up. But lately, one of the things he's been doing, I think that's made it a little bit harder on his tackles at times, is he's actually been stepping back, which gives the ability for people that are going, 7-8 yards away from the line of scrimmage, trying to get that guy around the arc. Gives them the chance to be able to get around that arc a little bit more and get after the quarterback. So that's going to be something to watch. And in my mind, you have to hope that Jawan Taylor can have a good game against Max Crosby, but that's going to be a huge matchup in this game.
Yeah, no, it will be. And Max is a lot healthier this week than he was that week, right? You're
exactly.
Right. That was a game that a lot of folks were surprised that he played in. He was doubtful. He was the first player out of 69 players to actually play in a game after being listed doubtful and not practicing all week. But he said, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's the Chiefs, I got to be out there. Well, again, fast forward a few weeks, he's a lot healthier now. Basically had a bye week and almost another mini bye because they played on Thursday, and then they're not playing again until Monday. So really almost had 2 full weeks of practice. At this part of the season, they're not really practicing. Everything is basically a glorified walkthrough. So he's had time to kind of stay off his feet and stay off his knee and get a little rest and relaxation and get out there. And Patrick Mahomes, man, seeing 15 in the backfield, that gets 98 going. So, I mean, that's one of those 1-2 punches, the little mano-y-mano, the chess match between Mahomes and Crosby that I think we all signed up for. That's fun in itself, let alone the whole game.
No, it absolutely is. And one of the big things there is, people want to say they hate each other. I guarantee you they don't hate each other.
No.
Those two love each other, and it's camaraderie, it's respect.
Mm-hmm.
But both of them want to get in each other's heads. And when they get on the football field, it's all about competition. That's what gets them to play their best. So that's huge. And it's kind of funny to me, in a way, for you to sit here and say that it hasn't been the defense that's hurt them. And I don't mean that harshly against their defense, but what I mean is, in the past several years, it's always been the Raiders' defense that's been their downfall.
Yeah.
And then you get to this season, and it's really, I'm not going to say it's been great, but it hasn't been their downfall like the offense has been.
No, it hasn't. That's the thing about it. I mean, to allow teams to score at the most like 19, 20 points a game, I mean, that's what they're averaging. I think if you're a Raider fan, you take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday because, again, they've been giving up 30, 34, 40 points, on the regular. And so for this year to have that defense turned around the way it is, and again, I mean, look, Minnesota's not a great team, but they lost that game 3-0, right? I mean, 3-0.
That's not on your defense.
Right.
That's not on your defense at all.
So, the offense has struggled to go over 20 points before this game against the Chargers. The offense has only gone over 20 points one time all season. Like, think about that. That's wild. And that was the first game that Antonio Pierce was the interim head coach. That was against the Giants, and the Giants aren't very good. So them going over 20 points that one time was like, okay, well, it's the Giants. And then, of course, they had their big performance against the Chargers on Thursday Night Football last week. But, I mean, the offense has been on the struggle bus, and there's way too much talent, man. You got, Jacoby Myers. You got Hunter Renfrow. You've got Devontae freaking Adams, right? You've got Josh Jacobs. You got all this talent. You got all these weapons that you would think could find a way to get into the end zone, and instead it's your place kicker that's kicking a bunch of field goals, and you're not going to win a lot of games. You're sure not going to win against those guys, the Kansas City Chiefs, by kicking field goals. You may be able to extend the lead against Kansas City with some field goals, but consistently kicking field goals, you ain't going to win games. Kansas City's laughing at you all the way to the bank if that's what you think you're going to do. So, the defense has not been the problem. It's been the offense.
No, I agree. And you're going to lose if you're kicking field goals against the Chiefs, generally speaking. And it's funny you mentioned 20 points because that is really the I hate saying high mark. It's not really high mark, but that is the mark that you want to hit when you're playing against Kansas City. If you can score over 20 points with the way the Chiefs offense has been playing this year, you're going to have a chance to win the game. But that's the big question. Can they score more than 20? The big thing, the other big matchup that I'm really looking for in this game is Josh Jacobs. When he does play, is he healthy enough to actually make a difference? And what I mean by that is if you watched the last time they played, Devontae Adams had a good first half, but didn't really do much in the second half.
Right.
Josh Jacobs being able to run the ball and the Raiders being able to run the ball, if they can do that in this game, that's a huge change from last time that could actually give the Raiders an advantage, because if they can run and pass, that makes it a lot harder to defend.
Yeah, that's the big question, right? And again, Antonio Pierce kind of indicated that Josh Jacobs will be available on Monday. But I also want to see what Zamir White can do, right? Zamir White is the guy who got the start against the Chargers. He was a former 4th-round pick. He got his first career start, his first career touchdown, and he looks good. I mean, the dude is a Georgia Bulldog, so it's not like he's some slacker coming from some terrible program in college. I mean, this dude is coming from a defending national champion, so I mean, he knows how to get it done. That I don't think that'd be a bad 1-2 punch if Josh Jacobs can't give you 100% to get Zamir White in there. He's shown that he can carry the rock. He's shown that he can block. He can do a lot of things. I think Josh Jacobs is a much better receiver out of the backfield than Zamir, but Zamir could still carry the rock and tote it if need be. And I know the Raiders their goal is going to be to let someone carry the ball 20 times, right? Either get it to Josh Jacobs exclusively 20 times or a combination of Jacobs and Zamir White 20 times. But that's always the number that they look at, 20. If they can get to 20 carries, they feel pretty good about their chance to win that game. They do so much better when they're having a successful run game. So if the Raiders could run the ball, they'll feel like that could open up the rest of their offense and allow them to have opportunities to hit Devontae and Jacoby and everybody else. And Trey Tucker, the rookie with some speed, who scored a couple touchdowns against the Chargers. Can he extend and take the top off the defense? All of a sudden, they're starting to add that element as well. And they got a rookie tight end in Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. He could play as well. So, can he get involved? So the weapons are there. The question, Chris, is can they actually get them involved consistently? It's that C word that the Raiders will struggle with all season long.
Not just the Raiders, the Chiefs have as well. And you're absolutely right. It's consistency. It's getting the ball moved around a lot. And the one thing I will say is Kansas City has shown that they have the ability to be beat if the other team can run the ball consistently on them. And I will say, I understand you're saying if you can get to 20 carries, you feel pretty good. But the only way you're getting to 20 carries is if you're carrying the ball for 3-4 yards a carry. You're not going to get 20 carries if you only carry it for 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 yards. So that's going to be a big difference in this game in my mind, is if you can get to a point where you can get 3 or 4 yards a carry, which is something that you can be done against this Chiefs defense. Although Nick Bolton coming back is something that's probably going to help. When we get back, we need to talk about what could lead to a win for both teams and predictions. But I want to tell you about some of our friends before we do that. And I want to talk to you about our friends over at DoorDash. DoorDash is fantastic, and it is what I am going to be doing as soon as I get off this podcast tonight. I'm going to be ordering some food from DoorDash. And whether it's from a place like Kansas City Joe's in Kansas City, or if you're wanting to get groceries delivered directly to your home, you can do that as well. DoorDash is fantastic in that instance. And when you're looking for food, if you can get it, during the game, you can get it at the 2-minute warning, whatever you're really looking for. Whenever the game clock stops, that's time to order in with DoorDash. Why root for your team on an empty stomach? Order on DoorDash and save on football watch party favorites. Order chips, dips, nachos, and everything you need. Pizza, wings, burgers, doesn't really matter. You can get anything you want at DoorDash. Get up to 50% off, up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. When you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCK23. And again, don't forget to use code LOCK23 for 50% off, up to a $10 value on your first order when you download the DoorDash app and spend $15 or more. Subject to change, terms apply. All right, Q, when we get into this game and we get into the nuts and bolts of it, we talked about Jacobs. We talked about some of the matchups that we really like going into this game and how it could really work into this game. What do you see is what would lead to the Raiders winning this game?
For the Raiders to win this game, they've got to be able to establish the run. And I don't know if that means that they're going to start running the ball immediately as soon as they get the ball for the first time, or if they're going to try to loosen things up a little bit with the passing game, maybe some quick hitters to Devontae. I believe that's how they started the game last time, was a couple quick hitters. But they do have to, at some point, get the run game going. They also need to utilize some of their weapons. Like Devontae is great. You want to get him the ball, but you really want to get the tight end Michael Mayer involved. He's a guy that has shown his ability to not only catch the ball routinely, he's all of a sudden becoming a really good blocker as well. He's done a really good job developing that skill set. And the one thing about him, and you'll notice when he catches the ball, And like really good running backs do, they always fall forward when they get tackled. He always falls forward. He's always, if he gets a 4-yard catch, it's 6 yards because he's falling forward for 2 more. He's always rumbling, stumbling, trying to pick up a couple more yards. He always has that intensity and try to, run through somebody to pick up some extra yardage. He's always fighting and clawing for, extra yardage. And, that works 99% of the time. I know he's put one on the ground trying to do that as well. You can get a little loose with the ball when you try to do that. But it's something that, one, it fires up the team when he's able to do that, and it keeps the sticks moving. So I think that has to be, a big key to the game as well. You got to get the run game going. You got to get Michael Mayer involved, and you got to take shots when you have the chance. Take a couple deep shots, right? Show the team that you're not afraid to take those deep shots. Early in the season, when Jimmy G was the quarterback, they weren't doing that, and every team that they played knew, yeah, they ain't going to take no deep shots. Just going to go ahead and crowd the line of scrimmage. Going to go ahead and load up the box and dare them to try to run or throw that little short stuff because we're going to be all over that because they wouldn't stretch the field. Trey Tucker has speed. He has deep ball speed. He has an ability to go track the ball. He's done it multiple times, and now he's starting to catch the ball consistently. So you've got to take those shots. You've got to establish the run. You've got to get the tight end Michael Mayer involved. Devontae Adams, his game will come. Jacoby Myers, his game will come. I feel like those guys are just the obvious answers, but the other elements around it has to be done offensively for them to have a chance in this game. What are your thoughts?
Man, when I start looking at this game, I have to look at the Chiefs receivers, and it's not really just receivers; it's also tight ends as well, outside of Kelsey. And the reality is, they need to have a number 3 guy step up, and I don't know who it's going to be. Is it going to be MVS? Is it going to be Watson? Maybe it's going to be a different guy every single week. But regardless, you have Rashee Rice, who's was targeted and caught 9 balls last week for 90 yards with a touchdown. You had Travis Kelsey get 5 catches, but only have 30 yards. That's going to be hard to continue to win if those are your top 2 guys, and that's the kind of production you're getting. You have to have somebody else that's able to step in and get some production. One of the things that happened last week is Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a big screenplay. And whether or not he's going to be a big part of this game plan, that's a big question mark, because it does sound like Isaiah Pacheco could be back. If Kansas City can get Pacheco going and can get him 10, 15 carries, and it'll be interesting to see if they do that with him, considering he's just coming back from an injury. But if they can get him 10 to 15 carries, I think that helps the offense, and it will actually, hopefully open up the passing game a little bit. But you have to have somebody else step up. So the big thing to me is, who is going to be that number 3 option? Who's going to catch, 3, 4, 5 balls for 60, 70 yards and continue to move the chains when the top 2 or 3 guys are guarded? That's going to be the key for Kansas City to win in this one for me.
The other thing for the Raiders, if they were trying to get this W at Arrowhead, like I know they're going to attempt to do, defensively, they've got to make it difficult on Patrick Mahomes. Defensively, they've got to do what they've been able to do as of late, which is come up with a couple turnovers. And I know that Patrick Mahomes is so good with the ball, but somehow, some way, right, there's an opportunity to get a takeaway. If it bounces off a receiver's hands, if it's a fumble, whatever the case is, they've got to find a way to try to generate that takeaway and give their offense a couple extra possessions, maybe a couple short fields, whatever the case is. They've got to find a way to do that. And of course, 98, harassing Patrick Mahomes, making him run around a little bit. 9, looking at Tyree Wilson, Malcolm Kuntz. The one thing about Malcolm Kuntz, I'll say this again, he's been getting to the quarterback, but he's also been attacking the ball. He's been trying to strip sack the quarterback each and every time. He's caused about 4 fumbles in the last 3 games. So, I mean, he's really getting a knack for that. And I think there's an art to that. I don't think it's something that just happens, right? It's like something that you do really well or you don't. And he's starting to show that he could really do that. So when I talk about finding a way to get a takeaway, that could be it as well. Maybe a sack of the quarterback and a strip, or maybe stopping the run. Maybe, Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Isaiah Pacheco, maybe they slow him down and someone punches it out. Whatever the case may be, the Raiders need to win that turnover battle. They've got to have a couple of them at the end of the day and give Aiden O'Connell and company a couple, shorter fields and try to operate with. And, of course, you got to cash in. You can't, create turnovers. I want to say, when they played Miami, they had I think they won the turnover battle. They had like 3 or 4 turnovers and they got like 6 points out of it. No touchdowns, a couple field goals. I was like, well, that was a waste. So, if you're going to get the turnovers, you might as well do something with it when you get them. So that's going to be one of the big keys as well, is creating turnovers and trying to harass Patrick Mahomes as much as possible, which is not an easy task at all, because he's really stinking good, as you know.
Yeah, and the big thing for me is they can't lose a turnover battle when you're talking about the Chiefs. If they lose a turnover battle, they're going to be in trouble in this game. That's just the reality of it. And the one thing that I will say that I didn't mention before, they have to stay out of third and long. If you
Mhm.
look at what this team has been able to do on third down this season, and I've been tracking it all year long, they're fantastic. Even on third, third and short, they've gotten a lot better this year. Third and medium, they're usually pretty good. But you get them into that third and long, and the NFL average is not great, but even they're still pretty high up on the NFL average. But if you can get them into third and long, that's going to give them, it's going to get probably the Raiders the opportunity to get off the field if they
Yeah.
just find a way to get a stop. So getting Kansas City into third and long is a way to stop this defense. The one thing that I will say is when they've been successful on offense usually this year, it's they're getting first downs on first or second down. They're
Mhm.
not even getting to third down sometimes. So that's also something to watch. When you look at this game, what is your final prediction for this game?
Man, you hit me with that one. I don't know if I was ready for that one. It's a Christmas gift. Man, it's funny. I said that the Raiders were going to win last time at Allegiant Stadium because I feel like that they have to beat the Chiefs at some point. They've got to figure it out. I'm going to get crazy, man. I'm going to get wild. It's Christmas. Why the hell not, right? So I've been talking about it a lot all week. Like, man, I'm feeling more confident in this game, even though it's the Chiefs and it's still a scary team. I say scary with all due respect. Like it's a tough out as the Raiders aren't very successful against the Chiefs, but I think this game is huge for Antonio Pierce. I know it's huge for the Chiefs. They could win the division. They win this game, but I think this game means so much to Antonio Pierce. Like I don't want to say has to win it, but he really needs to win this game. I'm going to get crazy, Chris. I am. I may live to regret this later, but I'm going to say that the Raiders find a way to squeak this thing out 27-24 in Arrowhead on Christmas morning. It's going to be what they'll call in Las Vegas and Raider Nation a Christmas miracle, but it's going to be something that's going to be talked about. So I'm going to get a little crazy. Maybe I put on my Raider glasses before we started this, and maybe that's why I'm looking in that direction. I don't know, but something about this defense makes me feel comfortable and just maybe they figured it out. They got Bo Hardegree now, the offensive coordinator, in the booth as opposed to on the sideline. That made a little bit of a difference, I think, against the Chargers. So maybe they can expand on that and build off of that. So like I said, man, I'm going to get a little crazy, and I'm going to say the Chiefs are going to take a L at Arrowhead on Christmas, 27-24. The Silver and Black are going to take it, and no victory laps after that. They're just going to go out, get dressed, and get on the thing, be professionals, and get up out of there. How about that? What says you about the final prediction?
I look at this game and I look at what the Raiders did last week to the Chargers, and that was impressive. Regardless of the defense, I know gave them short fields and that helped score some points, and I get all that. But their offense was able to score points themselves, and they were able to sustain drives. That's something that you got to look at. It's a little bit different than the last time they played them. So I look at this game and I look at the Chiefs defense. I think the Chiefs defense is starting to get a little bit better than they have been in the past couple of weeks because now they have Nick Bolton back. They have Nick Bolton back. They have Drew Tranquil. The one thing that scares me is they don't have Brian Cook, who is played fantastic at the back end of this defense. So they are susceptible over the top, and that could be a problem. But I still think Kansas City is looking at this game knowing if we win this game, we win the division.
Yeah.
We are where we need to be, and we cannot overlook any teams at this point. We have played ourselves into a position where we have to win every single game and have a chance to get to where they really want to go. So I think Kansas City wins. I'm going to say 27-17 Kansas City.
Okay.
And to me, I think that this could be a two-score game. It could be a lot closer late. It just really depends on turnovers. And if Kansas City can get out of their own way and not get penalties, not get turnovers, and if they can maybe fix the drop problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, that's the point spread. 10-point favorites are the Chiefs right now. So, I mean, it's not crazy saying that they're going to win by 10 because, well, the fine folks at FanDuel believe that they're going to win by 10. And shout out to FanDuel, our sponsors. We love them, and we definitely encourage you to go check them out. But, yeah, I mean, they have the Raiders as 10-point underdogs, so that would not be a shock at all. And, if the Raiders could keep it close, then maybe if you're trying to bet some money, win some money, maybe you take the points and go with the Raiders, and maybe they keep it closer than that. Maybe they flat out win it. But I know one thing. I can't wait till Christmas. I really can't, man. I appreciate every single day. I don't want to fast track all the way to Christmas right now, but man, I'm excited about this game. And I'll tell you, about a month ago, I wasn't that excited about it, but Antonio Pierce has brought some new energy to this team. It's been a lot of fun just seeing how it develops under him, even though they're 3-3 since he's been the head coach. you feel like that they have a chance every time because of what AP brings to the table. So it's just a newfound energy in Raider Nation right now. So this is going to be a lot of fun, man. I definitely look forward to it. And I know the Chiefs Kingdom does as well, as they're hosting this one on Christmas morning. Well, Christmas afternoon for Kansas City.
Yeah, and I know that Antonio Pierce really wants this one just to have a chance at. I think this could give him a one-up on trying to get that job after this season, and it would be huge for the Raiders. So that's going to be something to watch, absolutely. And I know that this is going to be a big step up of the Raiders because you don't have Josh McDaniels. I know you haven't had him for weeks, but they've been trending in the right direction. Attitude, you can see it on the field, all of that. So it's really going to be a good game on Sunday, on Monday. It's going to be the only game on Monday. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Q, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And let us know down in the comments who you think is going to win this game for Q and for me from Locked On Chiefs and Locked On Raiders. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.